Don't let that nurse touch me. Those were the first words Adrian Moretti spoke after I kept his heart from stopping. Not thank you. Not. Where am I? He looked straight at me beneath the white trauma lights and said it like I was the most dangerous person in the room. I should have walked away. Instead, I noticed his pulse dropping again. Then stop. Trying to die on my shift, I said. 6 men in dark suits went completely still. So did Dr. Bennett. Adrian didn't. His eyes stayed on mine. Cold. Focused. Awake and away, no man with that much blood on his shirt should have been. It was 2:13 Tuesday morning at St. Vincent Medical Center when 3 black SUVs arrived without sirens. No police. No ambulance crew. Just men who entered the emergency department like they already owned every exit. Adrian Moretti came in on a private stretcher with a wound beneath his left ribs. I knew the name. Everyone in Chicago did. Moretti. Restaurants changed ownership around that name. Union disputes disappeared around that name. Men who laughed too loudly lowered their voices when someone whispered it. Mafia Boss. Dr. Michael Bennett reached Trauma 1 before anyone officially called him. That bothered me almost as much as the armed men outside the door. Pressure's 78/46, I said. Blood loss. Bennett answered. I looked at the monitor. No, his head snapped toward me. Adrian's blood pressure was collapsing, but his pulse was slowing with it. That was wrong. I checked his pupils. Who treated him before he got here? Silence. A broad-shouldered man near the door answered. Our medic. With what? Standard trauma kit. What exactly? His jaw tightened. Adrian spoke before he could. Blue vial. The man's face changed. Barely. But I saw it. We don't carry blue vials, boss. And suddenly the room felt colder. I looked back at Adrian. Someone hadn't simply shot him. Someone had planned for him to survive long enough to be treated, then die from the treatment. Dr. Bennett, hold the next dose. Emily, hold it. Adrian's gaze sharpened at my name. Noticed it. Stored it. That frightened me more than the guards. His heart rate fell to 52, then 48. I reached for the emergency medication. Adrian caught my wrist. Even half-conscious, his grip was controlled. Who sent you? No one. Wrong answer. Your heart disagrees. For 1 second, something almost like surprise crossed his face. Then the monitor screamed. His rhythm collapsed. The next 90 seconds became hands, commands, oxygen, medication, pressure. Nothing else existed. Not the guns. Not the mafia. Not Adrian Moretti's reputation. Only a heart refusing to cooperate. Then, a beat. Another. The rhythm returned. Bennett exhaled. Someone behind me whispered in Italian. Adrian's eyes opened again, and the first thing he did was look at my badge. Emily Carter. His expression changed. Not much, but enough. Get her out. I stared at him. I just saved your life. I know. Then why am I being removed? He turned his head toward the man beside the door. Daniel. The man stepped closer. Boss. Adrian's voice dropped. Lock down everyone who knew tonight's route. Daniel nodded. 7 people. No one leaves Chicago. You think the leak came from inside? Adrian looked at the 4-line, then at the medication tray, then at me. I know it did. That was when I understood. He wasn't lying. Helplessly in a hospital bed. He was already hunting whoever had put him there. Bennett touched my shoulder. Emily, come on. I pulled off my gloves. Adrian stopped me before I reached the door. Carter. I turned. His face had gone unreadable again. But Daniel was staring at him now. Boss. Adrian waited until I was outside. The door almost closed. Almost. Then I heard Daniel ask quietly, why reject her? She saved you. There was a long silence. And Adrian Moretti answered with 6 words that changed my life. Because Carter should have stayed buried. By 9:17 that morning, Adrian Moretti had already fired me from his room. Twice. The third time, someone came running. Emily. I looked up from the medication cart as Dr. Bennett crossed the corridor too fast for a man who usually moved like panic was beneath him. Trauma 1. Now. I didn't move. He doesn't want me there. He's crashing. That changed everything. I ran. The private floor looked different in daylight. Too clean. Too quiet. 6 Moretti men guarded the corridor, but nobody stopped me. Inside, Adrian was pale against the sheets. His heart rate had dropped into the 40s again. The nurse replacing me stood frozen beside the 4-pump. I followed the chart, she said. Exactly. I looked at the medication bag, then the barcode, then the screen. Something was wrong. Stop the infusion. Bennett frowned. It's the correct order. No, it's the correct label. I pulled the bag free. The printed code matched the chart, but the lot number didn't match the hospital inventory format. Someone had changed the medication record. Not accidentally. Deliberately. Adrian opened his eyes. He looked at the bag in my hand, then at me. You again. You're welcome. A shadow of something crossed his face. Almost amusement. Almost. I showed Bennett the number. This didn't come from pharmacy. His expression hardened. Daniel stepped forward. Meaning whoever tampered with his kit last night has access here too. Silence. Adrian pushed himself higher despite Bennett's protest. Daniel. Yes, boss. Leak the transfer. Daniel understood immediately. I didn't. What transfer? Adrian looked at me. Mine. You're not stable enough to move. I'm not moving. That was when I realized he was setting a trap. By midnight, word spread through the hospital that Adrian Moretti would be transferred at 2 in the morning. Private ambulance. East Corridor. Minimal security. None of it was true. At 1:43 a.m., I stood behind the nurse's station watching an empty hallway through a security monitor. The camera flickered, then went black. My stomach dropped. Camera. Failure. I whispered. Daniel spoke into his radio. Hold positions. Adrian sat in a wheelchair inside a darkened consultation room 20 feet away, dressed in black despite the bandage beneath his shirt. He should have been resting. Instead, he was running an operation from inside my hospital. A man in green scrubs appeared at the far end of the corridor. Mask. Badge. Medication case. He moved too confidently. Too directly. He never checked a room number. Daniel's men closed in. The stranger reached the fake transfer room. The door opened. Empty bed. He froze. Then Adrian stepped into the corridor. No weapon in his hand. No raised voice. Just that stare. The stranger went pale. Who sent you? Adrian asked. The man said nothing. Daniel grabbed him. The stranger's jaw moved once. Adrian noticed first. Stop him. Too late. The man collapsed. A bitter chemical smell filled the air. Bennett rushed forward. I checked for a pulse. Nothing. He had carried his silence in his own mouth. Adrian looked down at the body, then at the access badge, clipped to the scrubs. I removed it carefully. It was real. Not printed. Not copied. Issued by St. Vincent. Bennett took one look at the employee code. His face drained. What? I asked. He didn't answer. Adrian did. That badge was authorized through Bennett's department. I stared at the doctor who had trained me, trusted me, defended me. Bennett shook his head. I didn't issue that. Adrian's expression didn't change. That's what I intend to find out. Then he turned to Daniel. Emily leaves tonight. My chest tightened. Again. Rejected. Removed. Disposable. Fine, I said. Gladly. Daniel looked at Adrian. Home. Adrian's eyes shifted to me. Cold. Unreadable. No, I stopped. He continued. Home is the first place they'll look. You have two choices, Adrian Moretti said. Stay where I control the perimeter, or leave and let whoever wants you dead guess correctly. That's not a choice. It is. You simply dislike both options. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in the back of a black SUV heading north through Chicago. Adrian sat opposite me. Black coat. Fresh bandage beneath his shirt. Face pale from blood loss. Still somehow the most powerful person in the vehicle. No one told him to rest. I suspected no one had survived long by trying. The Moretti estate stood behind iron gates and bare November trees, far enough from downtown that the city lights had become a distant glow. I expected excess. Gold. Marble. Evidence of a man desperate to display wealth. Instead, everything was dark wood, stone, cameras, and silence. A fortress pretending to be a home. Daniel met us. Inside. 3 routes are ready. Adrian removed his coat. Who has them? Lucas gets Cicero. Salvatore gets Bedford Park. Logistics gets. Elk Grove. I glanced between them. What routes? Adrian looked at me. Lies. That was all. An hour later, I understood. He had created 3 fake shipments. 3 different locations. 3 separate groups inside. His organization received 3 separate pieces of information. Whichever location Victor Romano attacked would identify where the leak came from. It was elegant, cold, and frighteningly patient. This wasn't a wounded man hiding from his enemies. This was a mafia boss turning his own weakness into bait. You planned this from the hospital? Adrian looked at a map spread across the dining table. I started planning when I realized the vial was wrong. You were barely conscious. I was conscious enough. Of course he was. A man entered carrying a tablet. Boss. Movement near Cicero. Nobody reacted except Adrian. Confirmed. Romano vehicles. Do nothing. The man hesitated. They're hitting our warehouse. It contains empty crates. A pause. Let them celebrate. The man nodded and left. I stared at Adrian. Cicero was Lucas's route. Yes. So Lucas is your traitor. No, that surprised me. You just proved the information came through him. I proved information passed through his channel. He finally looked at me. Those are different things. That sentence stayed with me because it told me exactly why Adrian Moretti was still alive. He didn't fall in love with obvious answers. Later, I found him alone in a study while searching for the room they'd assigned me. His shirt was partly unbuttoned. Blood had seeped through his dressing. You tore the wound. I noticed. Sit down. No, I opened my medical bag. Then bleed on your expensive carpet. His eyes narrowed. I waited. 3 seconds. 5. Adrian sat. I almost smiled. Don't. I didn't say anything. You were about to. I removed the dressing carefully. His body went rigid when I moved around. His left side. Not pain. Something else. When I stepped behind him, his hand snapped around my wrist. Fast. Instinctive. Then immediately released. For the first time, I saw something beneath all that control. A reflex learned somewhere ugly. I didn't ask. I simply moved back into his line of sight. His shoulders relaxed. Barely. You're afraid of people behind you, I said. No, that wasn't a question. Silence. I cleaned the wound. You know, I said, you can order your men around all night, but you don't get to decide when I sleep, eat, or whether someone enters my room. Adrian watched me secure the new dressing. Then, he looked toward Daniel, standing at the doorway. No one enters Emily's room without her permission. Daniel nodded. Understood. I stopped. No argument. No threat. He had simply heard my boundary and changed the rule. That unsettled me more than resistance would have. I packed my supplies and left. Halfway down the corridor, voices came from the library. Lucas. Angry. You're chasing ghosts because of some nurse? Daniel answered too quietly to hear. Then Lucas said something that stopped me cold. Carter was supposed to stay buried. My hand tightened around the medical bag. I stepped into the doorway. Lucas turned. Adrian was already there, watching him, watching me. And suddenly the surname Adrian had recognized in the hospital felt heavier than blood. I looked directly at Lucas. What did you just say about my father? My father was a doctor. He has been missing for 18 years, I said. So, choose your next words carefully. Lucas Moretti stopped smiling. Across the library, Adrian didn't move. That scared me more. Lucas looked at him. You never told her? Told me what? Lucas. Adrian's voice was quiet. One word. A warning. Lucas swallowed whatever came next. I stepped between them. No. He started this. Let him finish. Adrian's eyes met mine. For once, I couldn't read them. Lucas exhaled. I don't know what happened to your father, but you know his name. I heard it. Years ago. From whom? Silence. Adrian answered. Me. The room seemed to tilt. Before I could speak, Daniel entered holding a phone. Boss. Lucas moved. Adrian's attention shifted instantly. What? He left. Through the south gate 20 minutes ago. Lucas stared at him. I'm standing right here. Daniel almost smiled. Your phone left. Adrian looked at Lucas. Someone had taken Lucas's encrypted phone and deliberately made it appear he was running. Too perfect. Just like the warehouse. I thought about patients who arrived with textbook symptoms. The dangerous cases were sometimes the ones that made diagnosis too easy. Someone wants you to blame him. Adrian turned toward me. I continued. The route. His phone. Even what he just said about my father. Every answer points to Lucas. That usually means Lucas. Daniel said. Or someone wants Adrian to stop looking. Silence. Adrian studied me. Then Lucas. Let him go. Daniel frowned. Boss. Make everyone believe I didn't. I understood. Another trap. By midnight, the estate whispered that Lucas Moretti had been marked for betrayal. At 12:38, Lucas climbed into a sedan. Adrian followed from a second vehicle. So did I? Not because he invited me. Because Lucas had mentioned my father. You stay in the car, Adrian said. You don't get to. Tonight I do. His eyes shifted toward the warehouse ahead. This isn't a hospital. There was no arrogance in it. Only fact. I stayed. Lucas entered an abandoned medical office near River North. 7 minutes later, another car arrived. My breath caught. Dr. Bennett stepped out. The man whose department had issued the killer's badge. The man who had disappeared. Adrian went inside with Daniel. I watched. Shadows moved behind dusty glass. Then the door opened. Bennett wasn't arrested. Lucas wasn't restrained. Something was wrong. Adrian returned. 20 minutes later, carrying a thin envelope. What happened? Lucas. Isn't the leak. Then why Bennett? His mother. I frowned. Lucas's mother has late-stage pancreatic cancer. Bennett has been treating her privately for 6 months. Why hide it? In my world, weakness becomes leverage. A secret solved. But Adrian's face told me another had replaced it. Where is Bennett? Gone. My stomach tightened. He ran? No. Someone warned him we were coming. Back at the estate, Adrian opened the envelope Bennett had left behind. Inside were old hospital records. St. Jude Medical Center. October 2008. Then a photograph slid onto the desk. 3 men stood outside an emergency entrance. Bennett, much younger. Adrian at 18. And between them, my father. Thomas. Carter. My knees almost gave out. I picked up the photograph. You knew him. Adrian said nothing. All the anger I'd been holding finally broke through. You recognized my name at St. Vincent. That's why you rejected me. Yes. Why? His jaw tightened. Because some histories stay dangerous. That isn't an answer. It's the one I can give you. I laughed once, without humor. And you wonder why nobody trusts you. Something shifted behind his eyes. Pain, maybe. Then it disappeared. I held up the photograph. My father vanished when I was 10. My mother died believing he abandoned us. If you know something, you don't get to decide. I'm safer without it. Adrian looked at my father's face. For the first time since I met him, the Mafia Boss seemed unable to hide what a memory cost him. Then he raised his eyes to mine. Your father didn't abandon you, Emily. My throat closed. Adrian's voice dropped. He saved my life. A beat. Before you did. I rejected you because the last Carter who saved my life ended up dead. Adrian said it without looking away. No apology. No softness. Just a sentence that made the photograph shake between my fingers. My father is dead. Yes. The word landed. Harder than I expected. For 18 years, I had hated Thomas Carter for leaving us. My mother had waited for him until waiting became its own kind of grief. Now Adrian Moretti was telling me there had been nobody to wait for. When? Not tonight. I stared at him. You don't get to do that. His expression hardened. Do what? Give me half the truth and decide the other half is too dangerous. This isn't about danger. Then what? Timing. I laughed bitterly. You really think you control that too? Daniel looked away. Adrian didn't. He motioned toward the photograph. St. Jude. October 2008. I was 18. He had already been born into the Moretti family, already being prepared for the world he would one day rule. But he wasn't boss yet. That night, violence between Moretti men and a rival crew spilled near St. Jude Medical Center. Adrian arrived bleeding. My father treated you. He kept me alive. Why? He was a doctor. The answer sounded obvious. Somehow it hurt more. Adrian continued. While treating me, Thomas Noticed payments moving through St. Jude's charity accounts. Shell. Companies. Medical suppliers that didn't exist. Moretti money? Hey. Pause. Some. At least he didn't lie. And Romano. His eyes narrowed. That's what I'm finding out. There it was again. Even while telling me about my father, Adrian was working. Connecting 18-year-old. Transactions to the war happening now. Mafia boss first. Always. Daniel. Placed a tablet on the desk. Boss. We found activity. Adrian read the screen. An account connected to one of St. Jude's former suppliers had been dormant since 2009. 3 days ago, it moved $400,000. Recipient. A company tied to Victor Romano. My skin went cold. So this isn't history. No, Adrian said. Someone reopened it. I looked at the photograph again. Is that why you recognized me? Yes. And why you ordered another nurse? His silence answered before he did. I knew what happened the last time a Carter got close to my world. You thought rejecting me would protect me. No, I looked up. Something changed in his face. Small. Honest. I rejected you because I didn't trust myself to keep your name out of this twice. That silenced me. Not romantic. Not comforting. Just guilt spoken by a man who seemed to consider confession more dangerous than a weapon. You still made the decision for me. Yes. That isn't protection, Adrian. It's control. His jaw tightened. In my world, control keeps people alive. And does anyone in your world actually trust you? Daniel went completely still. I knew I had crossed a line. Adrian stepped closer. Not threatening. Worse. Quiet. Trust is expensive. No. Control is expensive. Trust just requires you to risk being wrong. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then Daniel's phone vibrated. He checked it. Boss. Adrian. Turned. We traced another payment. Where? Not where. When? Daniel handed him the phone. I watched Adrian's face become unreadable. What is it? He didn't answer. I took the phone. The account activity continued for 3 years after my father disappeared. Thomas Carter had been using an alias. My pulse hammered. He was alive. Adrian said. Nothing. I looked at him. My father was alive for 3 years after he left us. Yes. The room seemed suddenly too small. You knew? Yes. Every fragile piece of trust forming between us shattered at once. Where was he? Adrian's eyes held mine. I saw something there I hadn't seen before. Not calculation. Regret. Deep enough to frighten me. Emily. No, I stepped toward him. You knew my father. You knew he didn't abandon us. You knew he survived St. Jude. My voice broke. Despite everything I did to stop it. And you know what happened after. Adrian didn't deny it. That was when I understood the truth had never been missing. It had been standing in front of me since the night he entered my hospital. I swallowed. You know how my father died. Adrian. Moretti looked at me for a long, terrible second. Then the Mafia boss, who trusted no one, finally gave me the answer he had spent 18 years burying. Yes. Your father died because he trusted me. Adrian's words left no room to breathe. I stared at him across the library. Explain. He dismissed everyone with one glance. Daniel hesitated. Boss, out. The door closed. Adrian remained standing. Maybe sitting would have made this feel like a confession. Men like him didn't confess. In 2008, Thomas found payments connecting a Moretti capo to Romano-controlled companies. My father found your money. He found stolen money. Someone inside my family was working with Victor Romano. Thomas had copied the records before St. Jude's financial office burned. For 3 years, Adrian moved him between safe locations, while Thomas collected enough evidence to expose the network. You hid him from us. I kept your family away from men watching for him. My mother thought he abandoned us. I know. You let her believe it. His silence was answer enough. My eyes burned. Keep going. In 2011, Thomas decided to leave Chicago. With us. Yes. Something inside me cracked. He was coming home? Adrian looked at the floor once. Then, back at me. I arranged the route myself. 3 vehicles. 2 decoys. Only 4 people knew which car carried him. My stomach tightened. Someone talked. Yes. The convoy was intercepted outside Joliet. Thomas never reached the airport. Adrian did. Barely. You were there? Yes. Did you see him die? A pause. Yes. I turned away because suddenly I couldn't stand looking at him. 18 years of anger at my father collapsed into grief in less than a minute. He said anything? Adrian's voice changed. Softer, but not gentle. Your names. Mine. My mother's. That hurt most. I wiped my face before turning back. And you never came to us. The people who killed him never found what he stole. So you used our ignorance as protection. Yes. You always have a reason. I usually do. That doesn't make you right. No, the answer stopped me. Adrian Moretti admitting he had been wrong sounded stranger than an apology. I grabbed my coat. Where are you going? Home. It isn't safe. Then somewhere else. His jaw tightened. I waited for the order. The locked gate. The men at the door. Instead, Adrian stepped aside. When it's safe, you leave. And you won't stop. Me. No, for the first time. He gave me something his money couldn't buy back. A choice. Daniel entered before I could answer. Bennett. Call. Everything changed instantly. Adrian became the boss again. When, 30 seconds ago, Daniel placed the phone on speaker. Bennett's breathing came through first. Ragged. Adrian. Where are you? I found Thomas's archive. Adrian's eyes sharpened. What? Archive. Patient records. St. Jude. He hid account numbers inside. Treatment codes. Bennett paused. There's also a personal note attached. To the Carter file. If Emily ever enters this world, tell her everything. Let her choose. My heart hammered. My father had left evidence and instructions. Bennett added, part of this archive was accessed months ago. Romano may already know the note exists. Where are you? Adrian repeated. Bennett gave an address near the Chicago River. Come alone. Adrian almost smiled. No, then I disappear. Again. Daniel comes. Silence. Then Bennett agreed. Adrian ended the call and studied the map. We don't use his location. If Bennett is being watched, Romano already knows it. He chose a second meeting point, 3 blocks away, and sent Bennett the replacement through a one-use encrypted channel that revealed the address only when Bennett was already moving. The meeting was set for 11:30 p.m. inside the estate. Only 3 people heard the final location: Adrian, Daniel, and me. At 11:27, Adrian's team reached the replacement building. Bennett wasn't there. Romano's men were. The trap was abandoned before anyone entered. But the message was clear. Someone had leaked the location in less than an hour. Back at the estate, nobody spoke. Daniel stood near the window. I stood beside the desk. Adrian faced us both. I understood before he said anything. The leak had narrowed itself. Daniel had served him for 14 years. I had known him 6 days. Inside the estate, there were only 3 people who knew the replacement address. Adrian couldn't have betrayed himself, which left 2. His oldest lieutenant, or the nurse he had never wanted near him. Daniel slowly looked at me. Adrian didn't. He simply locked the library door. And for the first time since I met the Mafia Boss, I realized the next thing Adrian Moretti chose to believe might decide whether I ever walked out again. If you think I betrayed, you lock the door, I said. If you don't, stop wasting time and find who did. Adrian stood between Daniel and me. 14 years of loyalty on one side, 6 days on the other. The silence felt like a verdict, waiting to happen. Daniel spoke first. Boss, she knew the location. So did you, I said. His eyes hardened. Adrian raised one hand. That was enough. No one touches her. Daniel stared at him. For the first time, I saw something dangerous pass between them. Not anger. Disbelief. You're choosing her word over mine? No. Adrian walked toward the desk. I'm choosing evidence. He turned to me. Your phone. I handed it over. He already knew I hadn't used it during Bennett's call. His security system logged every device entering the estate. Then Adrian looked at Daniel. Yours. Daniel didn't move. 1 second. 2. That was all Adrian needed. Put it down. Daniel slowly placed his phone on the desk. Adrian connected it to a scanner. Nothing. Then he removed the case. Behind it was a thin, encrypted relay chip. Adrian's face became completely still. That was worse than rage. How long? Daniel looked away. Adrian, how long? 5 months. My stomach dropped. Adrian didn't shout. He didn't strike him. He simply sat down. And somehow that made Daniel look smaller. The route that put me in St. Vincent. Daniel closed his eyes. Yes. The blue vial. The ambush. The hospital breach. For 5 months, Daniel had been feeding Romano pieces of Adrian's world. Adrian's oldest lieutenant had almost gotten him killed. Why? I whispered. Daniel reached into his wallet and removed a photograph. A girl with dark curls smiled at the camera. 19. Sophie. Adrian stared at it. My daughter. The room changed. Daniel had hidden her existence for 19 years. No Moretti records. No family events. No photographs. Nothing an enemy could use. Until Romano found her. He took her 5 months ago, Daniel said. Every time I refused him, he sent me something. His voice broke. A lock of hair. Her necklace. A recording. Adrian's eyes remained cold. You should have come to me. And risked her life? You risked mine instead. Daniel flinched. Yes. It was the ugliest kind of betrayal. The kind committed by someone who still loved you. Adrian stood. What does Romano want? To fracture the family. That isn't enough. Daniel looked at him. No, it isn't. Adrian waited. Daniel finally understood there was nowhere left to hide. Victor never wanted you dead at St. Vincent. I frowned. He poisoned Adrian. He needed Adrian weak. Daniel looked at me, suspicious. Then at Adrian. He wanted you alive long enough to start looking inward. The false evidence against Lucas Bennett. The compromised routes. Every clue had pointed Adrian toward someone close. Not because Romano wanted Moretti territory immediately. He wanted Adrian to destroy his own organization first. Adrian walked to the window. Chicago glowed beyond the glass. His city, his empire, his people, all turned into weapons against him. I finally understood the design. You don't defeat a man who trusts nobody, I said. Adrian, look back. You give him reasons to trust even less. Daniel nodded. That's the plan. Adrian's eyes moved to me. Something had changed. At the hospital, he had rejected me because my name frightened him. Tonight, when every rule of his world said I should be guilty, he had investigated before condemning me. Trust hadn't made him weaker. It had shown him where to look. Adrian turned to Daniel. Where is Sophie? I don't know. Who does? Romano. Adrian shook his head. If Romano personally controlled her location, he wouldn't need you alive. Daniel froze. Adrian was already thinking 3 moves ahead. Who gives you instructions? A relay? Voice? Text? Timing? Every 48 hours. When is the next one? Daniel checked the clock. Tomorrow. 6 a.m. Adrian nodded once. Good. Daniel stared at him. Good. 5 months. Romano thought he owned a man inside my house. Adrian picked up the relay chip. Tomorrow, we let him keep believing it. Daniel swallowed. What are you planning? Adrian looked at me first, then at the photograph of Sophie, then back at the man who had betrayed him. We find your daughter. A beat. And while Romano is watching us rescue her, we take everything else. Daniel's face tightened. There's something you still don't understand. Adrian stopped. Daniel's voice dropped. Victor isn't trying to take your empire. Then what does he want? Daniel looked around the room. Adrian Moretti had ruled through fear for years. He wants you to destroy it for him. Tomorrow morning, Daniel betrays me again. Adrian said it like he was scheduling breakfast. Daniel went pale. I stared at him. You're going to let Romano use him? No. Adrian turned the encrypted relay between his fingers. I'm going to let Romano believe he still can. By 4 a.m. The Moretti estate had become a war room. Maps covered the dining table. Lucas handled logistics. 2 capo captains stood waiting for orders. Adrian never raised his voice. He didn't need to. Daniel is dead by sunrise. Daniel blinked. Adrian continued. That's what everyone outside this room hears. Then he pointed to Lucas. You're angry about his death. Angry enough to turn on me. Lucas understood immediately. And Romano approaches me. He'll think he finally fractured the family. I watched Adrian build the lie piece by piece. Daniel's fake death. Lucas's fake betrayal. A financial route deliberately left. Exposed. Meanwhile, Daniel would answer Romano's 6 a.m. message. Exactly as expected. One operation to find Sophie. Another to dismantle Romano's money network. 2 battles. One mafia boss controlling both. Then Adrian looked at me. You leave before sunrise. No, his eyes hardened. Emily, Bennett has my father's archive. If you find him injured, your men won't know what medical codes Thomas used. You're not part of this war. I became part of it when someone changed your medication. Silence. I expected another order. Instead, Adrian slid a folder toward me. Every location, every contingency, every name involved. I stared at it. You're telling me the entire plan? You asked me to trust you. A beat. I do. 3 words. Nothing more. But, from Adrian Moretti, they felt heavier than a confession. At 6:02, Romano's message arrived. A warehouse address. Daniel was instructed to deliver information proving Lucas would defect. Adrian's teams traced the relay through 3 false servers. The 4th connection stayed open. 7 seconds too long. Enough. Sophie, Daniel whispered. Southside. An abandoned private clinic. Adrian sent 1 team. He didn't go running after her. He stayed at the table, directing everything. 2nd. Entrance. Covered. Romano's men. 4 confirmed. Wait until Sophie is isolated from them. At 7:19, Daniel's phone rang. A woman was crying. Dad. Daniel nearly collapsed. Sophie was alive. Adrian gave himself exactly 1 second of relief. Then another phone rang. Boss. We found Bennett. He had been abandoned near an old St. Jude storage facility. Alive. Barely. They brought him to the estate. I worked on him, while Adrian continued dismantling Romano's network 10 feet away. Bennett's pulse was weak. Thomas, he whispered. What about him? Codes. I leaned closer. The account numbers weren't the real weapon. My hand stopped. What was? Transactions. Names. Proof Romano violated agreements with 3 families. Adrian heard him. Everything shifted. Romano hadn't simply stolen money. He had betrayed Mafia. Alliances that kept Chicago balanced. Adrian didn't need to destroy him. He needed Romano's own allies to stop protecting him. By evening, copies of Thomas Carter's records reached 2 neutral families. By midnight, Romano had lost access to 3 accounts, 2 warehouses, and half his political protection. Then Lucas made the call. I'm ready to betray Adrian. Romano took the bait. The meeting happened the following night. In an empty riverside warehouse. Romano arrived expecting a fractured Moretti family. Instead, Adrian was waiting. Daniel alive. Lucas loyal. And Romano's former allies absent. Victor's smile disappeared. You think this ends with money? No, Adrian said. It ends with you having nowhere left to stand. Romano looked toward me, then smiled again. You trust the nurse now? Adrian didn't answer. He didn't have to. Victor studied us and laughed softly. Interesting. Then he looked directly at me. Your father left one thing out of those records. My chest tightened. Adrian's expression changed. Romano saw it and smiled wider. Ask your mafia boss what Thomas Carter made him promise before he died. Tell her, Adrian, Victor Romano said. Tell the nurse what her father begged you to do. The warehouse went silent. Adrian didn't look at Victor. He looked at me, and I knew immediately this was the last secret. My father made you promise something. Yes. What? Adrian's voice was low. If Emily ever enters your world, tell her the truth. My chest tightened. And don't choose for her. Victor smiled. Touch my network and a dead man file goes to every family and federal desk in Chicago. Moretti accounts. Names. Routes. Your empire burns with mine. Daniel looked at Adrian. For once, Adrian didn't answer immediately. On the copied archive in my hands, one sequence kept bothering me. Everyone had treated Thomas's numbers as accounts, but the spacing was wrong. I had seen that pattern in medication charts. Those aren't account numbers, I said. Adrian looked at me. They're dose intervals. My father used medical notation to mark which entries were false. Daniel pulled up the sequence. The marked entries formed a second key. A hidden server address appeared, the relay controlling Romano's deadman file. We can redirect it, Daniel said, but I need the order. Adrian didn't look at him. He looked at me. Are you sure? Yes. A beat. Then Adrian said, do it her way. Daniel entered the key. The relay changed destination. Romano's smile vanished. His final weapon had just become evidence against him. Everything suddenly connected. The hospital, rejecting me, hiding my father's death, deciding where I would stay, calling control protection. You broke your promise. Yes. Victor laughed. There he is. Adrian Moretti, a man who thinks controlling people is the same as saving them. Adrian finally looked at him. No one word. Victor's smile faded. I used to. Then, Adrian turned away from him. That was the humiliation Victor hadn't expected. He had built an entire war around Adrian's distrust. The false evidence against Lucas, Daniel's betrayal, Bennett, the poisoned medication. Every move had been designed to make Adrian destroy his own family. Instead, Adrian had done something Victor never planned for. He had questioned himself, and, when it mattered most, trusted my judgment over his own system. The redirected deadman file reached Adrian's counsel and the three families Victor had tried to manipulate. By sunrise, Romano's empire began collapsing. Thomas Carter's records proved Victor had violated agreements with three families. His accounts were frozen. His allies withdrew. His warehouses changed hands without a war in the streets. Adrian didn't need to chase him. He simply removed every place Victor could stand. Daniel lost his position as consigliere. Adrian didn't forgive him, but he didn't destroy him either. Take Sophie, Adrian told him. Leave Chicago. Daniel stared at the man he had betrayed. Why? Adrian's expression never changed. Because punishment and revenge aren't the same thing. Lucas remained. Bennett survived. And Victor Romano disappeared from power the way Adrian preferred enemies to disappear, not dramatically. Completely. 3 weeks later, I was back at St. Vincent. Navy scrubs. 12-hour shifts. Bad coffee. Normal life. Adrian never asked me to return to the estate. Never bought the hospital. Never sent gifts. Most importantly, he never made the decision for me. Then one freezing night, I walked out after my shift and found him beside a black sedan. Alone. No circle of guards. Just Adrian Moretti in a dark coat beneath the hospital lights. What do you want? I asked. Nothing you don't choose to give me. That sounded different coming from him now. I stepped closer. Do you trust me? He didn't hesitate. More than anyone alive. Not love. Not possession. Trust. For Adrian, it was more intimate than either. A week later, I returned to the Moretti estate because I wanted to. He was still Mafia Boss. Men still lowered their voices when he entered. Phone still rang. At midnight. Orders still crossed that dining table. I had never asked him to become harmless. He had never asked me to become part of his empire. That was why it worked. Before I left that evening, Adrian placed a small brass key in my palm. What does this open? The front door. I looked at him. I thought your doors opened from the inside. They do. Then why give me a key? His dark eyes held mine. So you can come back without asking. My fingers closed around it. Before he died, my father had asked Adrian to give me a choice. He finally had. I walked toward the door. Adrian didn't stop me. Didn't ask where I was going. Didn't ask whether I would return. My hand reached the handle. I turned. He was still standing exactly where I had left him. Waiting. Not commanding. For the first time, I understood what had changed. Adrian Moretti had spent his life testing loyalty with fear. Fear made people obey. Fear made people stay. Fear also made people lie. Trust was different. Trust meant giving someone the power to leave and refusing to close the door behind them. So I crossed the room again. Not because the Mafia Boss ordered me to. Because he didn't. He had rejected me the night I saved his life. Now I was the only person he trusted enough not to control. Adrian Moretti still ruled the city. But that night, I chose to stay.